hosts Dixie Cochran.
Hello.
And Eddy Webb.
Ahoy, ahoy.
Awkward silence time.
Who I cannot hear.
No, I said ahoy.
Okay, well, you didn't say it on our end because Skype cut out for you again, so I'm sorry.
God damn you, Eddy.
We're getting off to the best start.
I am literally the worst.
Yeah. The thing is now, you, the listeners, will think, Dixie and Matthew, they're full of it. I could hear Eddy say that because Eddy's recording his audio separately because that's the kind of sneaky kind of person he is. But we will soldier on, we will endure, and we will, in this episode, endeavour to cover a topic that we spoke about, 2 episodes ago?
Yeah.
Which is our dream game. If we could have the rights, the unlimited funding to produce, write, edit, art, any role-playing game in the world, what would it be? And it doesn't have to be on an existing license that has had an RPG made for it. It could be a video game that you would love to see in the form of a tabletop RPG. It could be a TV series that you'd love to see in the form of a LARP, or a movie in the form of a narrative game, that kind of thing. We want to, I guess, push the boundaries. We can go for some traditional ideas, and we can go for some rather experimental ones. So this should be a bit of fun. It's a spitballing episode,
absolutely.
Which isn't as disgusting as it sounds.
Aww.
Maybe it is.
I don't like this episode anymore. I was excited about it until you put it that way. I'm leaving.
Goodbye.
It's a brainstorming episode. There we go. Now I feel like I should be in a room with a whiteboard, some marker pens.
There are no bad ideas. Just throw anything out there.
Yeah, exactly. Let's make a flow chart.
Yes.
Eddy.
Yes.
Eddy, you've got the most experience out of all of us, and you have no doubt worked across more games than either of us ever will. What with you being in your dotage.
Wow. This is last. You're still bitter about last week's episode, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, and that bitterness will never fade until midwinter when satisfaction can be found.
He's just mad because we discovered a while back that he's actually the youngest of the three of us.
Oh, I see. That's true.
So.
Yeah, it's like if Rich is dad, basically. I feel like he poured out all of his love and respect on the first 2 children. I get a lot of affection.
I'm gonna say the youngest one's usually the favorite. I get to have middle child syndrome here now.
Oh, well, that's true. So, yeah, all the hopes were riding on Eddy, to be honest. How did that go?
I did not inherit the business, so there you go.
Well, anyway, on to the subject of the episode. Eddy, as the man with the most experience of us. You've worked in a lot of genres. Let's talk about genre first.
Sure.
Are there any genres you haven't worked in?
There's been a few. I've not worked in pure romance. I've done some work with romance subplots, but I've not actually done a actual romantic game. And to be fair, I don't think there's a lot of them out there, so it's not surprising I haven't done that. Although it has been becoming more and more popular, dating sims from the video game side are on the rise. There's actually a particularly bizarre one called Dungeon Boyfriend, I think it's called, where you can actually date your weapons.
Yes! Yeah. That was really cool.
It sounds bizarre and dumb, but it's actually looks like a really interesting game.
Yeah, I think it's called Boyfriend Dungeon, but I have to look it up. But yeah. That's... I mean, there's also the pigeon one, obviously. Hot to Full Boyfriend.
Oh god,
the best dating sim ever.
It is amazing. And I feel like I could do an entire episode just on Hot to Full Boyfriend. But the point is that even though the first one is fantasy flavored and the second one is, for lack of spoilers, psychological horror flavored, but at the same time, at their core, they are romantic games. That is the primary gameplay. And I've not worked in that particular genre. I've only done 1 or 2 things in pure mystery without a paranormal element. And actually, I'd probably argue that I only done 1 thing that's absolutely nothing genre related with mystery. But I mean, aside from that, I have worked in a lot of other areas. I mean, from everything from if we were still doing wrestling references. I've worked on professional wrestling games, fantasy, sci-fi, 9 yards. But I think that certain genres do make themselves better for games or even dream games.
Well, on the subject of mystery, because we know you're a huge Arthur Conan Doyle buff.
Yes.
And specifically Sherlock Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
You've spoken a few times about how you would love to work on a game involving Sherlock Holmes, but have occasionally come up against obstacles. So how to deliver that in an actually captivating role-playing experience.
I get to talk about the problem with Sherlock Holmes games. All right. So there actually have been a lot of games that either involve or are based on the Sherlock Holmes canon. It's kind of, canon is their term for like a mythos or whatever, a body of work. But the problem of almost all Sherlock Holmes games come in two rough buckets. Either you're not playing Sherlock Holmes, which to a casual person seems weird, because it's like, well, the game's called Sherlock Holmes, why am I not playing Sherlock Holmes? And the other one is that players can never be as clever as Sherlock Holmes is perceived to be, if you are playing Sherlock Holmes. So you either get a game that's kind of in the larger cast of Sherlock Holmes. Usually Watson fills that role in a lot of the game designs, which is fine, but not what's meant to be delivered. In the other cases, you get very scripted events or punishingly difficult games. There was a text adventure Sherlock Holmes game that is just ludicrously hard. The closest intersection I've found to those, for me, has been the Consulting Detective series, which I think we've talked about before on the podcast.
Yes, we have.
But the high points, just to kind of also remind people, you're playing members of the Baker Street Regulars, which are his urchin subordinates. They've grown up a little bit, and so now they're kind of his secondary team of investigators. So you're doing Sherlock Holmes things, and ultimately you're solving the mystery, but Sherlock Holmes has already solved it, and so you have to see how well you stack up to him. So you can never be as good as him. I mean, it's theoretically possible, but highly unlikely you'll be as good as him and get the right answer. So you still have the sense of Sherlock Holmes is better than us, but you're still doing the kinds of things he would do, so that's kind of the closest area. But Sherlock Holmes, at a higher level, talks to a problem with franchise-based games. Because a lot of times the protagonist is not always the best viewpoint into the property. In some cases, the protagonist is the game. Mass Effect is, even though it has their own Shepard, still Shepard is a very distinct role, and the Mass Effect games are ultimately about Shepard. Why am I blanking on the name? The Neil Drake games, Uncharted. Again, they're very much about you're playing Nathan Drake. So I mean those are games based upon antagonists, but a lot of other games, or particularly our franchises, playing the role of a high level character in a smaller cast is difficult. A Masters of the Universe game has never quite worked out because He-Man is so disproportionate to the rest of his supporting cast.
But James Bond RPG, of course, existed at one point, and the Doctor Who RPG by Cubicle 7 does very well. So it clearly is possible to do it. So
in the James Bond game, you're usually playing at the highest level other 00s. So you're playing someone else with the 00 ranking. You're very rarely playing James Bond himself. So that gets around that by saying, well, you're part of that agency. And because James Bond is established as being part of that agency, even though we never see it in the movies really, that seems to work, and that's why the game worked well. For Doctor Who, you can play the Doctor, but in earlier versions, there was a Faza Doctor Who game, and there was another one after that was a small indie press made. The Doctor still is kind of disproportionately balanced, so what ends up happening is you get lots of storyteller advice on how to work around the fact that a Doctor is a powerful character. Cubicle 7 actually balanced out by making the companions differently slanted. They have different skill sets that are equivalent to, but not identical to, what the Doctor does. And again, that works because, A, you have a franchise that's really about a rotating cast of 2 or more characters, not a single character, so you have more ways of getting in. And secondly, the reboot really helped to increase the narrative value of the Doctor's Companions, which is necessary to get the game to work on that level as well. There's one in the Faza game, this is super obscure, but one of the companions, Perry Brown, actually is so incompetent that her stats as a companion, the NPC stats, are less than a starting player character. So I mean, that's the kind of struggle you get with franchise games sometimes. So there's a lot of challenges for going, we have this license, we're making a game based off of it. There's a lot of difficulty that comes with that.
So Dixie, then, because you've just embarked on the process of developing books. You've obviously been editing them for some time now.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you're getting to, I guess, have not just to think, but first-hand experience of the kind of games you enjoy working on and the kinds of things you would like to work on. So I guess sticking to genre, what kind of thing really excites you right now that you would love to be able to sink your teeth into and tackle?
I'm super glad you asked me a question because I was definitely zoning out. That conversation got way more crunchy than I thought we were going to get because I literally came at this from like a fandom angle.
Sure. Like,
when I was preparing for this conversation, I was just thinking like, I'd love to make this. I didn't think about how I'd implement it, nor do I care.
Well, that's what you hire writers for, you know.
Yeah, well, like, that's the thing. Like, I literally wasn't thinking mechanics. I was just thinking, like, you know, I'm going to stare at my bookshelf and just keep listing my favorite books.
And that's fine. I mean, it's totally cool, too. I love doing that.
Yeah. So it's not really particular genres because I don't have any specific genre that I'm like, I love this entire genre. It's always things within the genres. Like, I can say I love fantasy, but I really hate the works of, like, Terry Goodkind. So I don't like all fantasy, you know? Mm-hmm. The properties that I have been most thinking of, one would be the comic book Saga.
Yes.
Because it's amazing. If anybody hasn't read it, please go pick up the first trade today and get hooked on it. Because it is part space opera, part romance, part action. It's got some magic. It's got a little bit of everything. And the main characters are really interesting, but there's so much more going on in the world that I think would just make an amazing role-playing experience, because the whole like kind of premise of Saga is that there are these 2 warring factions. There are the people with wings and there are people with horns, and they, you know, some of them live on the planet, some of them live on the moon, but then they have these overlords that are like robot people with TV heads, and so there's tons and tons and tons of options for characters you could possibly play. There are bounty hunters. There's just so much going on. It's a beautiful series, and of course if I ever did that one, that's one that it's like, I'd love to get the license, and I'd love to just be able to reuse Fiona Staples' beautiful artwork.
Absolutely.
Because it's all amazing. So that's one that every time that I think about, like, Dream Game, I'm like, I want to play a Saga game. Like, I've thought about trying to, you know, port it into another system, because it'd just be so cool to play a game in that world. And the other one is really different. I'm super into, like, Gothic romance literature, specifically Charlotte Bronte.
Oh.
And I've never seen a game. I mean, I'm sure one exists, because I'm going to get comments on Twitter, because there's a game that exists for everything. Somebody has written it. But I would love to see something in, like, Jane Eyre, Vanity Fair, you know, maybe even some Edgar Allan Poe kind of stuff. Just kind of a sweeping Gothic Victorian romance.
So, funny story.
Super cool.
I think it got canceled, but there was a Bronte MMO that was in development for a while.
I would have played the crap out of that. I never actually heard about that, but that would have been awesome.
Yeah, the roadmap had things like you go to events, and you know, as you flirt and talk with other people, you build up a certain amount of social currency, and then you can spend that social currency to throw your own events.
I mean, that sounds almost more Austin-y than Bronte. Usually Bronte, there's, you know, someone locked in an attic, or something terrible happening.
My understanding was that there was going to be other kind of, like, you know, weird elements, occasionally people, succumb to brain fever, or, you know, like I said, go insane and start, you know, taking over mansions and you know, crazy Gothic stuff as well.
Yeah, because I mean, I think it would almost be fun even to do like a humor version of that, which Neil Gaiman did very admirably in one of his short stories. To do kind of a so over the top gothic horror.
Oh, really?
But Forbidden Brides of the Faceless Slaves and the House of Dread Desire. I can't remember the whole title because it's so long.
That's wonderful.
Amazing.
I'm looking at it on my shelf, but the spine just says Forbidden Brides because I have the illustrated version. But it's this world where gothic horror is real and very mundane. Like, there's someone trying to write a book, and then this young woman runs up, and she's running away from something, and then there's, bats and vampires, and everything is terrible. And this person's trying to write realism, so they're writing overwrought gothic horror. And then someone's finally like, why don't you try writing fantasy? And the person sits down and starts writing a really mundane story about a couple eating toast. So even, like, turning that on its head would be kind of fun. But yeah, so those are the two main ones I always kind of go to when I'm looking at my shelves. The other property that is one of my favorite book series, to the point where I have a line from it tattooed on me, is the Kushiel's Dart series by Jacqueline Carey. There's 9 books total. It's in 3 trilogies, but it's a really cool kind of fantasy version of vaguely Renaissance-era Europe. Of course, all the place names are changed. But,
Sure.
Magic exists in this world, but it's very low magic. I'm not super into, like, the wizards and dragons and fireballs magic in my fantasy. I prefer it to be a more human story. And when there is magic, it actually comes across as fantastic because it's not all the time magic.
If you don't mind, I've had a number of people recommend that series to me as well. So what really draws you to it, to the point where you actually would tattoo something on yourself?
I love the world that she created. So it's all stuff that you learn in the first couple of chapters, and even from the back of the book. The main character, Phaedra, is a courtesan, and then she ends up being trained as a spy. And this is all very early in the first book. The myth that is there is really cool. So in this world, the Christian mythology actually happened, but when, like, Jesus was on the cross, his blood mingled with the soil, and another son of God was born named Eloah. But because God was so sad about Yeshua, he kind of ignored his other kid for a while. And so Eloah and a bunch of his followers, who were also angels, went and founded this land called Terre d'Ange, which is basically France. And all the people that live there are descendants of these folks. And they all worship, these angels still, these, like, angel god characters, and occasionally they are made manifest in the book, but it's very, very rare. There is a lot of sex in the books, because she is a courtesan.
Sure.
So if anybody's looking to read them, understand that there's going to be sex. And not just sex, there is a lot of BDSM sex. Because that is her thing. Like, Kushiel's dart is a mark where her eye has, like, a red dot in it, and that means that she experiences pain as pleasure, and that's kind of a favored thing for Kushiel, but it's kind of a weird thing to a lot of people in the world. So that's why she's special, I guess. But also, she's just a really cool character in that she's very smart. She doesn't solve things with violence. She solves them by being very cunning and by talking her way out of things, which I think is a really cool heroine to look up to. And also just the entire world of Terre d'Ange. The line I have tattooed on me is "Love as thou wilt," which is their main precept. And it like, they're a culture that embraces all sexualities, all genders. As long as people are consenting adults, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
And I really like that. And it also makes it really interesting in the books when they leave Terre d'Ange, because other countries don't have that. So there are other countries that are still very, like, almost Catholic, things like that, and they're very judgmental of the people from their world. So
Wow, it's really interesting.
Either way, yeah, it's a really cool series. I always recommend the first 2 trilogies. Some people might not like the third one as much because it picks up, like, 200 years later. So your kind of main characters that you're used to aren't really there anymore. But yeah, I've loved those books for years and years and years. I've read them all multiple times, and I would love to play, like, a super long campaign set in that world as, various courtesans and spies and, members of the Castilian Brotherhood, who are these monks, and yeah, it would just be cool.
And honestly, I mean, that's a fair point. There aren't a lot of fantasy games that dig into specifically talking about the romantic and sexual cultures of the time without getting weird and problematic about it. I mean, Blue Rose is about the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
I was just about to say
but
Blue Rose.
Exactly, that was exactly what I was going to say as well. Blue Rose, if for anyone who's unaware, is a Green Ronin game, and developed, I believe, it may have had more than one developer, but I believe Joe Carricker, long-time friend of, well, I think of all three of us and colleague, is currently developing it. But it's a fantastic romance fantasy game.
Yeah, the original design was actually Steve Kenson, John Sneed, Don Elliott, a few other people all did the first edition.
More colleagues of ours.
Yeah, and then the second edition design, I have the book open in front of me, was Steve Kenson and Jack Norris. I know that Joe has been writing the novels. And I think he worked on some of the supplements too, and probably did some of the writing.
It's not a surprise.
I'm really glad that my role-playing game shelf is right behind me, because I can just pull books off when I'm talking to people.
Yeah, it helps in a situation like this, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't know who developed this stuff, but I can open my book and find out.
I find it interesting that the first place each of us kind of gravitated toward was that sort of 18th, 19th century Britain, with things like Bronte, Sherlock Holmes.
What about you? What is your 18th century thing then?
Well, mine, at one point in my life where I was living, there wasn't a great deal to read except an awful lot of Reader's Digest books. So my grandparents would be sent a new novel every 2 weeks or so because they'd signed up to a subscription service.
Oh, yeah.
You know, be the cheapest version, no cover art or anything like that, usually just be the title. But that was quite nice in its own way. And so they had all the James Bond novels, so I read all of them. And they had all the Dickens novels, so I read all of them, and they had all the Shakespeare plays. I didn't quite read all of them, I'm not mad. But
I've read all the Shakespeare plays.
Well, you are mad, but but I mean that in the nicest possible way. The Dickens novels, I'm a big fan of Dickens' universe, and there was a TV series, and for the life of me I cannot recall its name, that came out, I think, last year, which amalgamated the worlds of Dickens and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and I think even Jane Austen. It just kind of mushed up all of these characters. Oh, and Bram Stoker and Mary Shelley.
Is that Penny Dreadful?
No, it wasn't Penny Dreadful. That's the thing. It had a more mundane base to it than Penny Dreadful.
Is that Dickensian?
It's such. So, what's that, sorry?
There's one called Dickensian.
Maybe Dickensian.
It was a couple years ago. It was like a 20-part series. I remember watching that. It was on BBC One.
But I love the idea of role-playing in that world of Dickens, because the characters are rich to the point of, well, ridiculousness. They have farcical names, and I love farcical names in a setting because that really hooks me. I remember characters when they're called things like Edwin Drood and Uriah Heep. Right. It just sticks in my mind. But specifically, as we were talking as well about comics that I guess got the mind going, Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips released they've collaborated on a number of comic series, but they produced a comic series through Image by the name of Fatale. This was, I guess, 7 years ago now, 6 or 7 years ago. And it's only a 24-issue run, but it is, for me, the perfect combination of noir and Lovecraft, which is what it was aiming to be. It's brilliantly drawn, it's fantastically written, and it's a series I cannot recommend enough for people who love both of those genres. It's
very good. I have the trades.
Yes, me too. And to be honest, anything that Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips work on tends to be pretty damn strong. But it's a different take on the Lovecraftian, the mythos, that I could see myself using for an awful lot of games that I run, and potentially one day wanting to do an entire Call of Cthulhu role-playing game set with that angle in mind. I believe there already is a Cthulhu Noir, but it doesn't quite get the... In fact, I know there is, but it doesn't quite get the meat that Brubaker and Phillips managed to in the comic, which is quite horrifying at points, as it should be. But it's got real put down and take a breather points, which I don't often get from comics. And going all the way to the other end of the sublime comic spectrum, a very famous series, Transmetropolitan,
Yes.
which is a series, again, I completely adore. It's probably the series next to Preacher, which I think was a watershed moment for an awful lot of comic book fans. And even though in retrospect a lot of us look back at Preacher and think, well, it's actually quite vulgar and juvenile, Transmetropolitan, while it also has juvenile points in it, I think holds up a little better to today's audience.
Yeah.
I've no idea how I would implement the ridiculous world of Transmetropolitan in an RPG, but because there are so many different interesting facets to it, I could see it being approached, I guess, in an Eclipse phase kind of style, where you would be looking at different parts of that insane world where you have VR, where you have people basically being transmogrified into gaseous forms, or basically devolving themselves so that they get to live out as cavemen because they think that is a better course for their life. It almost bleeds into Ian M. Banks's Culture series, where humanity, it is transhumanism to the point that ultimately whatever you do with your body, no one's going to care about it because humans can achieve absolutely anything. Where to cap that in an RPG is quite a challenge, and it's a challenge I think a lot of people find with playing games like Eclipse Phase and Nova Praxis and other GURPS transhuman games, because when you can do absolutely anything, when does the GM say stop?
That's how I always felt about playing Rifts.
Well,
you can do literally anything in that game, and it's like these they would get out of hand during character creation.
Yeah.
And I was like, this game is already ridiculous. I don't even know why we're doing this, but I had a group of friends that really liked it when I was younger. And yeah, it's the same kind of issue, as you have to figure out where to cap it, because it's like, if you can be literally anything, that can be a problem with gaming.
I mean, so Over the Edge kind of has a similar vibe in the sense of it's a tabletop role-playing game where you can play just about anything. I mean, characters can be angels, they could be a divergent human species, but they kind of just handle it by not caring. But also Over the Edge is intentionally a surreal game. It's meant to get hyper weird really fast. So I think something like that would be actually a pretty good match for something like Transmetropolitan, where it's like, if everything's equally weird, then power level becomes kind of a minor concern to how weird can you actually push things.
Right. Yeah, I can see that.
Whereas
just,
Rifts had the idea of, there's going to be actually some kind of quote-unquote balance involved in this, and that is just objectively not true.
Yeah,
it makes me wonder how we will handle Scion God when we get there. Because in the first edition of Scion, it was very much a rather staid method of, I guess, leveling up from hero to demigod to god. And much like playing a 20th level character in 3rd edition D&D, that's all well and good, but you never really get to feel like a god because everything you're going up against is at an equal level to yourself, as far as the game is designed. So it will be interesting to see our approach for Scion God, and to basically put enough restraints in place to make you enjoy the experience of being a god, but also allowing enough wonder so that you feel like a god.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say a whole lot. I know Neil and I have
talked... same here, because I actually know a lot of plans.
Yeah, I know I've talked a little bit about it. I do know that fate is a big part of solving that problem. It's like, you're super powerful, but also you serve a very specific role.
Yeah. And also, I think a lot of God tier play may not take place on Earth, as it were.
Right.
No.
There are all the lands of gods, obviously, and, Titan Spawn and what have you.
Yeah, it's like the Thor comic where every once in a while Thor gets a little too powerful for Earth, so he goes back to Valhalla, and then there's like a run of issues about that kind of stuff, and then Thor gets struck down for hubris inevitably, and then goes back to Earth, and kind of goes the cycle again.
Pretty much.
So on other subjects, here's a novel series I've never mentioned to the two of you. Have either of you ever heard of S.M. Stirling's Dies the Fire series?
No.
I am familiar with SM Sterling, and I'm trying to figure out why. I'm looking this person up.
So,
I can remember.
in Dies the Fire, there's an event, a global event, that never really receives adequate explanation, for good reason, where basically power stops. So planes crash mid-flight, all the electricity shuts off everywhere, and even when people try and propel energy to start up again using their own, hand-powered engines, they find that it does not grow to the levels that it should. So humanity is automatically, technologically devolved to a pre-electricity state, or pre-industrial state, I guess. And in this series of novels, which have their ups and downs, but by no means are they my favourite series. Mm-hmm. It deals with various colonies of survivors, including our protagonist colony, who cope in various ways, succeed in various ways. It doesn't go the typical route of... I think we mentioned The Walking Dead maybe once before, where it's, they try and set up a colony here, doesn't work because humans are bastards, move on. Yeah, because we were talking about it in the frame of Dystopia Rising. Yep. It doesn't go down that channel, but it has lots of different people. Some cling to religion, they revert back to very much a feudal-style Christianity, and so monasteries pop up as quite a popular way of living. Others will strive and scavenge to try and be as the humans they once remembered, but as a new generation are being born into this world, and as the books go on, you generally jump forward by about 15 years, 20 years, you start to see the world through the eyes of people who have never known it any other way, and how they come to approach it. And that's quite interesting. It's something that's explored to a limited degree in the RPG that I know I have mentioned to the two of you, Broken Rooms. Mm-hmm. I've not mentioned it on the podcast, but Broken Rooms is a wonderful indie game that you can get on Drive-Thru RPG, where there's 12 parallel Earths, and each of them is going through some kind of global catastrophe that will probably result in that world's destruction within at least 13 years. Or at most 13 years. And that could be heat death, it could be an ice age, it could be a black hole has appeared in the solar system, or it could be that all technology has ceased working. It has one world that's quite similar to that Dies the Fire style. And I would love to be able to expand that. It's the kind of thing that would fit nicely into Dystopia Rising, I guess, almost as an adjunct to Luddite community, where people completely reject the idea of tearing around on hogs and souped-up cars.
Right.
And they embrace their naturalistic roots, but of course would have a dark side. But that's something I'd like to look at. So, going back to you, Dixie, what other universes would you like to see in game form?
Oh gosh, there's so many, and I'm trying not to name any that already have RPGs, because my brain keeps trying to go like Mistborn, and then I'm like, that exists, and it's really good actually. Just go buy that one. Because there's so many things that I like. Something very close to my heart, just because I'm pretty sure there's like two things that I can always point to that are what got me into fantasy as a child, and they were the Chronicles of Narnia and ElfQuest. And ElfQuest would be really fun, just in general, because there's a lot of stuff. But I feel like that was made at one point.
I would say, I think it was, but I think it was also like in the early 80s. I think it was really early on.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I still love ElfQuest, but it hasn't really aged as well as I'd like it to when I've gone back to look at it. I mean, I was reading this when I was, 9, because my mom had them all. It would still be a fun one, just as kind of like a nostalgia project for me. You mentioned He-Man, and the new She-Ra cartoon that's coming out, it looks like all the princesses have roughly equal power levels.
Oh, interesting.
Like, they all seem useful, because it's not called She-Ra Princess of Power, it's called She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm kind of like, all I've seen is the trailer so far, but it's Noelle Stevenson who wrote the absolutely lovely comic book Nimona.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to that. And there are a lot of like kids cartoons now are way better than they were when we were kids as far as teaching lessons and teaching compassion and letting, like having diversity, things like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So like Princesses of Power looks like it could be really good. Adventure Time would be a really fun game.
Yeah.
I think Steven Universe would be really fun too. It's got the built-in conceit of there being, multiple crystal gems you could play as.
Mm-hmm.
And also because all kinds of wacky stuff happens in that universe. You could have everything from kind of a sweet, more pastoral game to a big action fighting game with it. I've been thinking about a lot of these in terms of some of the initiatives you've been doing, like with iThrive and everything.
Right.
I'm like, man, there are some properties out there that would make really awesome role-playing games for teaching these values.
Absolutely.
So that's always stuff that I think of. We talked a little bit before we started recording about possible, like, even LARPs we want to talk about. I would pay good money to do a Battle Royale LARP.
Really?
Yes.
Because that's one of my favorite books and movies. For those of you who don't know Battle Royale, it's a randomly selected class of 30 or so high school students gets dropped on an island, given a random weapon, and told they have a couple days to kill each other or they all die. So they're like only one can win.
It's also like Danganronpa too.
Yeah, harsher version of the Hunger Games and Running Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it would be fun to actually, get a bunch of people in a prescribed area and everybody does get like a random weapon. Because like in the book and in the movie, there's a character that gets an AK-47 and a character that gets a pot lid. Like, It is not even at all. And then actually, seeing how people dealt with that.
Have you read the manga of it?
I haven't read all of it because there were so many volumes. I actually really like the novel a lot, if you haven't read the novel.
I have. It is a strange tangent, a strange moment of connection between two of us. But no, I've read all of the manga, and it's basically an adaptation from the novel as opposed to the movie.
Right.
But
so, like,
Battle Royale is fantastic. That would be a brilliant LARP.
Yeah, and it would be, like a several-hour one-shot or something, or one weekend, because it does take place for 48 hours. But there would be a lot of hiding and alliances, and if you choose to take yourself out of the game and all that, it would be really, really, really interesting, just to kind of see how that played out.
I mean, there's a kind of a version of that. Steve Jackson Games put out rules for a game called Killer.
Yes.
Which is rough. I mean, it's not the same thing. I mean, we're talking about actually it has to be a distinct game, but Killer is kind of equivalent because it's basically you're playing yourselves, and the game doesn't really have a discrete start or end. It's just everyone, there's certain agreed methods on quote unquote assassination, and then it's just you go on with your life, and then your friends will occasionally try to kill you, and then at a certain point in time, there's one person left, but you have specific targets, so it's not just randomly kill people. It's I have to specifically assassinate this person on the list, and then when I kill them, I take their target, and then now I have to go after them instead. So there's it's less of the making alliances and more along the lines of I'm not sure where I am in your queue yet.
Yeah. Now the other, and this is the total opposite, the other kind of LARP I would love to do, and these exist. They exist, I know, in Denmark because I have friends that go to them. I have friends that go to these like Jane Austen or Downton Abbey type LARPs.
Yeah, I forgot about them.
Yeah, that's Fairweather Manor, I believe.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ones. My friends in Denmark go to them all the time.
Oh, wow, okay.
But they have like an upstairs downstairs kind of vibe. So some people do sign up to play servants and hear all the gossip and do all that, and then people sign up to play, the like high society folks. And honestly, both sound fun. I'm a huge Downton Abbey fan.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'd love to do that. Like, it would be fun to do like the, servant role one weekend and then the like high society the other weekend. But that's obviously complete opposite, where it's just all intrigue and parlor LARP and talking. Possibly someone dies or something. Something dramatic always has to happen.
Sure, right.
But definitely the exact opposite of, the bloodiest battle royale ever I could think of.
So kind of go back to Battle Royale a bit. I remember a friend of mine was pitching an idea. It's like never got anywhere, but it stuck in my head. The idea was a John Wick LARP from the movies John Wick.
I haven't seen them.
Okay, well,
I'm the worst.
No, it's fine. The main character is part of this kind of underground society of assassins. So the movie occasionally goes into the support staff for this shadow economy. So it's like you go into a hotel and the persons who supply him with weapons and people give him information. And so I just spent a interesting amount of time with that aspect of things. And the idea for the John Wick LARP is that no one plays John Wick. Rather,
Right.
you're all parts of this kind of organization. You have your own little agendas and ideas, but at some point in the LARP, John Wick is going to burst into the scenario and kill all of you. So it's a case of this kind of fatalistic of, I have my own goals, agendas, but also as a player, I know at some point in time my character's going to die. And I don't know when exactly. I don't know when this random mystery assassin can come in and just kill me. And because it's, the idea is that he's the best assassin in the world, there's no combat system. You're just going to die.
Right.
So it's kind of the opposite of Battle Royale from a different perspective. It's still that same kind of bloody dynamic, but there's no meaningful combat mechanic. It's just, you get, you're part of somebody else's combat mechanic. Basically, there's a different game going on that you're the opposite side of. It's like playing a shopkeeper in a fantasy, computer RPG kind of thing.
Right.
See, and John Wick isn't something I would have considered for an RPG, but again, it's looking at it from the other end, and I guess you can do that with a lot of these sort of action-based movies or secret agent movies where you're playing the support staff or the henchmen, the goons, or even a superhero RPG where you're playing the Joker's thugs as opposed to Batman and the Joker. I mean, that on its own, playing the Red Triangle Circus gang from Batman Returns would be a fun experience just because of the characters you're playing. Again, I feel like it would almost lend itself more to LARP than it would tabletop.
There actually, there was a tabletop game, and I wish I could remember the name of it. It was an indie tabletop role-playing game, but the concept was that it was kind of the late 70s, early 80s sci-fi where there's this handsome, rugged, kind of Dan Dare, Buck Rogers-style hero with all of his beautiful women support staff. But you're not playing the hero. You're all playing the support staff, and you're all much smarter than he is. So, as a tabletop game, the goal is to get him to survive his missions so he can keep being a hero while you actually get the actual work done.
I suppose the modern version would be Zap Brannigan's crew.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It's the you're playing women in skin tight suits. Like, oh yes, whatever. I'm gorgeous. Yes, absolutely. I'll sleep with you. Whatever. Then he goes with, okay, now what are we gonna actually do? So this guy doesn't die in this mission because he's an idiot. And I thought it was an interesting subversion of that. Yeah,
no, I really, really, really like that. Yeah. I like subverting tropes whenever I can. So those are always kind of the properties that I look to. It's either I want it to be super serious or I want it to be something that is newer to the genre, which is why I always recommend things like the Kushiel Start series, is because I've never read a fantasy series like that. If anybody out there on Twitter or anything knows of any other fantasy series that are like that, please tell me. And I will read them. Because I have found so few series that I love that have, I love a female heroine, obviously. That's my favorite. But yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to find where it's kind of fantasy, but it's almost historical fiction. Yeah, so I don't know. I love it. I mean, that and maybe Outlander are the only two series like that I've ever read. And they're both really good.
Absolutely. There's that.
For our
go ahead.
I was going to say for our last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we don't have much longer.
Oh, no.
I don't think we've really spoken about video games yet. So let's each come up with or TV shows. God, there's not enough time. This may have to be a two-parter. We'll have to revisit this subject.
I mean, we can push our other meeting back by 10 minutes if we have to.
I can't because I've got to go and pick up a child. But
no, you don't.
So I'm gonna start the video game side with a really, really bizarre one and see where it goes.
Okay.
Ace Attorney. Because
I have not played them. I'm familiar, but I haven't played them.
Okay, so the concept of the Ace Attorney games is that you're playing an attorney in Mumble Los Angeles during Mumble year in the future. It's actually Japan, and it's actually the Japanese legal system, but whatever. And the concept is all cases have to be solved in 2 days. You're a defending attorney, and you have 2 days to get your client off the hook, or they're just going to be declared guilty. It is also a world that has spirit channelers, psychics, aliens. So during the minor spoiler for the first game, after the first case, your mentor dies, but her sister channels her from the dead and gives you advice again. So it's not a serious game by any stretch of the imagination. But the character dynamics of these, frankly, ludicrous characters is weirdly compelling, and also there's a lot of the chess game, a highly abstracted, very not legal level, but the chess game of prosecutor and defending attorney. It's like you'll have access to the same evidence, although each side will occasionally present new pieces to kind of as part of a trap. And you're also trying to get certain pieces of testimony either discounted or validated through cross-examination. So it's a lot of two people as a LARP or a tabletop game, both trying to use each side to get their verdict across. And then again, throwing in things like at one point in one of the games, you put a bird on trial because he's a parrot. And you try to get him to say the thing that he says that has vital evidence. So it's bonkers, but it's kind of in the How to a Boyfriend style of there's actually an interesting compelling design behind it. I think as a tabletop or as a LARP, it could be really interesting. In fact, in Requiem, the Carthians have kind of a legal power bloodline thing that snuck in, and Rose put in there, and I was like, you realize I'm going to use this to run the Ace Attorney vampire game, and she's like, all right, that's cool.
Okay, so I'm going to be real basic with my answer compared to yours. Because if I do not get a fucking Fallout RPG at some point, I'm going to cry.
There was a fan one that came out a while ago.
They've talked about, well, it's one thing that's been talked about a million times, but like I want a new one. I want it to have all the factions in it. I want it now. Also, my favorite video game of all time is the Borderlands series.
Yes.
Specifically Borderlands 2, because I cosplay as the Necromancer. I can throw a picture of that in the show notes if we need to. Because someone's going to be like, wait, really? Yes, I do. I love Gage. I love Borderlands. I specifically love Borderlands 2. And the DLC for Borderlands 2, where they're playing a tabletop
I know.
It's like my favorite thing ever. But I would love to actually play the Borderlands characters as an RPG, because there's a lot of different ways you can build them. There are different classes already, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then, just actually going through and, tearing shit up on a weird planet while your ultimate enemy is floating in a station above you.
And also, if you throw in the really Telltale Tales from the Borderlands in there, it adds a whole new level of things beyond just shooting stuff. That's really, really great, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so much stuff to do in those games. I have played through Borderlands 2 several times. I never get tired of it. I've played through with multiple characters. I just really, really love those games. And it's one of my favorite multiplayer video games, too, where I've played with friends online. I've played with friends in the same room. Just a really, really cool series. And I like the style. I think even the, cel-shaded style will lend itself really well to an RPG.
Yeah, it ages well, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it never looks bad because it's not trying to be hyper realistic for the time.
Yeah.
So it's never going to age terribly,
right.
as far as I'm concerned.
So you will actually you'll appreciate this, Dixie. The Diesel Jock, one of their abilities is called Catch a Ride.
Nice.
And the writer put that in there, and I debated actually adding a bunch of eyes to it. Catch a ride. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
All right, Matthew, do you have any video games that you are
passionate
about?
I feel completely outside of the inside joke now, because I never really played much Borderlands, so here I am. But I mentioned a couple of episodes ago that things like Metal Gear and BioShock, and I think I mentioned even before that I pretty much constructed a BioShock RPG. I'd love for there to be an official BioShock RPG and for me to develop it.
Instead, you got cease and desist, so.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, sadly. In the realms of, distant possibility, I guess, something I would love to explore would be, in fact, it's not going to be possible. I'd love to do something with Metroid. Metroid was always one of my favourite Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and subsequent Nintendo console games. And it's odd when I think back to my childhood and how much I would love just reading things like walkthroughs for Super Metroid, because the characters and the world and all the aliens you were going up against were so fantastically colourful and detailed, much like in Legend of Zelda. All the creatures, with their inexplicable names, it was a fantastic, thriving world of Hyrule in Legend of Zelda and The Adventures of Link and so on. So that would be another one. But beyond that, oddly, and I guess this is a rather disappointing capstone to the episode, when I think back to one of my favourite Super Nintendo games that I would love to see turn into an RPG, I think back to Shadowrun. What could you do with a game like Shadowrun? And then, of course, I realise it is. It was a tabletop RPG before it was a video game. But if you haven't played the SNES version of Shadowrun, it's fantastic. I recommend it.
You know what video game would make a great tabletop role-playing game?
Hang on. I'm really, really stuck on the SNES thing. Did you just say SNES?
SNES.
In the UK, it was more often called SNES, much like the NES was called the NES and not the NES.
Oh, weird. Okay, anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Eddie.
It's fine.
I got real hung up on that.
That's fine. I'll just say, you know what other game, like a really fantastic tabletop role-playing game, is Bloodlines.
Oh, Vampire the Masquerade? No, it'll never happen.
Yeah, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. I don't think anybody could ever make a tabletop about that. It's just, it's got too much going on.
I agree.
Let alone a new edition.
Okay, so I'm going to do a quick fire round where everybody says the thing that is the biggest dream project that they got to work on that they never thought they would, like property-wise.
Okay.
So, Matthew, what's yours?
Wraith the Oblivion 20th anniversary was my first core rulebook. It took a little while to get out there, but it was fantastic working on it, and I'm very fond of that book.
Eddie?
Futurama. To get a chance to work with one of the writers on the show, particularly, was just an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Dixie?
You know, I'd like to say Vampire the Masquerade because that was a big deal, but I'm going to have to say Star Wars. Like, getting to work on the Star Wars RPG, just because I grew up in a Star Wars household. My mom's license plate used to be Red 5 Jedi. My mom's literally got a Star Wars tattoo. Like, that's her own, yeah. So, like, growing up in a Star Wars household, having seen the movies a million times, the first time that I saw my name, like, in that font, I was just like, okay, that's cool. Like, I got chills.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing.
All right.
Okay, well, with that said, I think we are here to wrap up. So, Dixie, where can people find you on social media?
Dixie Cyanide, as always. That's my Instagram, my Twitter, and stuff. And I don't know. I'm getting a lot of weird friend requests on Facebook, and I'm trying to figure out how to, like, fix that. So don't friend me on Facebook unless I know you.
You should do a.
Fair enough.
You should get a page.
I had a page for cosplay, and then I never did anything with it, so I deleted it. So I don't know. Maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
And Eddie?
Just about anywhere, Eddy Fate, EDDYFATE, or for professional stuff, you can find me at Pugsteady.
And you can't find me online, I will find you. With that said, many worlds, one Pathcast.
That was so threatening. Why are you threatening our listeners, Matthew? Oh no.